Hey guys, welcome back to Jessin Reads Romance. I'm Jessin, and today I'm going to be starting a vlog for my read of Blood Heir. I love the Kate Daniels world. It's not a secret, and I've been highly anticipating this spin-off, and I can't wait to talk about it. But before we do that, I did want to kind of recap with Kate Daniels, and for any new people who have not read Kate Daniels, I kind of wanted to encourage them to read. So Kate Daniels is a hard series for me to sell as a romance reader because it starts off slow and the first book is bad. I absolutely love the Kate Daniels series. It's one of my favorite urban fantasy series of all time. I think that Ilona Andrews has done a wonderful job of world building, but the first book, which was their first book, is bad at world building. And they even say that. They say it in multiple interviews. They say it on their blog. They would rewrite the first book if they could, and they would have done stuff differently. Another reason why Kate Daniels is a hard sell for romance readers is because the romance really doesn't pick up until book 3. And book 3 is kind of the book that I say you really need to get to it or just skip ahead to book 3 if you want to get into the story and have more of a romance plot. The love interests are present in the first book and the second book, but there's a little bit of like foreplay in the second book, a lot more prominent foreplay in the third book, and the romance really starts to build after book 3. When I first picked up Magic Bites way back in like 2013 or 14, I read the book and I hated it, and I was like, this is just so uninteresting. I'm so confused after reading this first book. I don't want to continue with the series. And my friend Becca from Scotland, hello, my Scottish friend, recommended this series to me, and I was just like, Becca, I just don't think that this is for me. I don't know what came over me, but about a year later, I think maybe there was a book bub for like one of the later books in the series, and I picked it up. I was like, you know what? I just hear a lot of people talking about Kate Daniels. Maybe I should just try to push through. So I reread book 1. I was paying a lot more attention, so it wasn't as hard to grasp the magic concepts in the world as the first time that I read it, and the plot was still not very interesting. The second book was a lot more interesting to me. I think that the characters were more clear. I think the world was more clear, and just whatever was happening in that book, like the whole plot that was central to that particular book, was a lot more interesting. Then I got to the third book and I was like, this series is for me. I love this series. This has a badass heroine in it. It has an amazing hero who is a lion shifter, and he is like the king of all shifters. Not really. He's just like in charge of one of the largest packs, and he just has like some extra oomph to his shifter's ability because he's considered a first. And there's a lot of lore that goes around that. The way that Ilona Andrews, who they are a writing duo, they are husband and wife writing duo, the way that they incorporate mythology from around the world. Like it's Greek mythology, Egyptian, Slavic, like so many different mythologies are coming together, as well as just religions. And religions is like, if you look at them from a history perspective type of thing, the way that they take those elements and incorporate them into this magic world is just so beautiful. I have researched so many things after reading these books, these Kate Daniel books, just because I'm like, they mention these long lost cultures and I'm very interested in all of that, and so I would go like Google the hell out of it and go get books, and it's just like that stuff interests me. So this series gets me really excited. It's a series that I push on a lot of people who I feel like they would trust my recommendations and they would be more likely to push through book 1 and 2 or just skip it if they so choose. Also, by the way, if you want to email me, my email is in the description box below. I do have a spreadsheet of the plot of book 1 and 2, as well as the magic breakdown and character breakdowns. I have a spreadsheet of that. I made that for Juliet because I wanted her to get into the series. I wanted to review one of the books on the podcast, but not one of the earlier books. I wanted one of the later books. And she needed to understand a couple concepts about the world. So I basically gave her a cheat sheet for book 1 and 2 so that she can go dive straight into book 3. And she was like, it worked perfectly. So if you want that spreadsheet, I will totally email it to you. Just contact me down below. Now, for all the Kate Daniels readers who are fans of Kate Daniels, I think that Magic Triumphs, which is the final book in the series, book 10, is the best wrap up to a series that I've ever read. I love the way this series ends, and I feel like a lot of authors miss the landing. They don't stick the landing when it comes to these long running series, and I feel very disappointed. Harley Davidson, it just did not work for me. But Kate Daniels, I was just like, I love it. I feel satisfied. I feel like there's a lot of things that can be turned into spin-offs, which Blood Heir is. But there was no glaring things that were left unanswered in Kate Daniels' arc that I was like disappointed that that wasn't touched on. And I just feel like it was just so satisfying. I had no idea how she was gonna wrap it up, and I loved how she wrapped it up. So which brings me to Magic Triumphs. I listened to Magic Triumphs on audio so that I could be refreshed, because it's been a while. I didn't have time to just reread the whole series, but I definitely wanted to reread book 10 because a lot of things happened toward the end that will probably impact Blood Heir, and I just needed that refresher. I'm so glad that I did, because there's so many characters that I forgot about, like Eduardo and George, and I just like needed the refresher for all like the pack dynamics, Dissandra, Ascanio, like just so many characters that I missed and I forgot about. Not forgot about, but I was just like, oh my god, yes, these characters. So anyway, I had a good time, and I kind of want to recap Magic Triumphs. So if you've not read the Kate Daniels series, if you've not read Magic Triumphs, then this is going to be pretty spoilery. And also, I would not jump into Blood Heir. There's just going to be too much history with Blood Heir to jump in. You have to read the Kate Daniels novels first to understand a lot of the dynamics in Blood Heir. I don't know. If anyone's going to read Blood Heir for the first time and you felt like you weren't lost for Blood Heir, let me know in the comments, because that would be very interesting to know. So for Magic Triumphs, we have the huge showdown between Kate and her father, Roland. Now there is another big bad that's a part of this. It's like this dragon king. And it's also kind of a continuation of the Iron and Magic story, which is another spin-off series from Kate Daniels. And I love that. Hugh d'Ambry, what a way to actually redeem a villain. Like, I hated this guy, and she wrote Iron and Magic. I didn't want to read Iron and Magic. I'm like, why are you gonna try to make me like this dude? I really hate him. And then I read Iron and Magic, and I'm like, I really love him. Oh, it's amazing. So Iron and Magic, a lot of things that happen. I mean, you can read book 10 without reading Iron and Magic, but there's a lot of things that happen that do affect Magic Triumphs. The way that all these players that have been popping up throughout the series come together in the end. Kate has claimed Atlanta. The people in Gastek are behind her in Rowena. Jim and Dolly are now the pack leaders, and so they're on their side, even though Jim is just mistrustful by nature. Jim, I loved him at the beginning of the series, but he really annoyed me by the end, honestly, but that was okay. Like, that's just his personality, and we can have some unlikable characters. I love Dolly, though. And the book begins with Kate having her baby, Conlon, and then we do a time jump, which I'm really glad that we did. And so Conlon's like this toddler. He shifts for the first time, and he like can hold warrior form right off the bat. Indefinitely. He is like the most powerful kid to be born. And also Kate's aunt, Era, one of the most interesting characters that were created in this series. I freaking love her. I love her relationship to Kate after she was brought back as this like knife, this weapon. And she's been in the story for a couple books now. I love Julie, love seeing Julie. Also, if you've not read Magic Stars, I think that Magic Stars will probably be important to Blood Heir. I'm just predicting that it will. Curran's been disappearing off on missions, and Era's been going with him, which is like suspicious in case just like wonder what he's doing. He's eating like god creatures so that he can be more powerful, because he expected Kate to do something really drastic toward the end, because Kate does not like anybody to sacrifice for her, but she's the type of person that wants to sacrifice her for everybody else. Like, she just like, my life doesn't matter. As long as the people I love survive this, that's the most important thing to me. And Curran knows this about her, and so he has a contingency plan, which I'm just like, I love this couple because they know each other so well. They just do, and I love it. Kate makes mistakes. Curran anticipates those mistakes so he can help her without being like telling her, no, you can't do it, because he just knows that she's going to do it anyway. It's just, yes, this couple is so good. So at the end of Magic Triumphs, I love the fact that Roland wasn't killed, because that was a big dilemma. Roland and Kate's lives are kind of tied to each other. It depended, maybe Kate could survive if Roland died on her territory on a land that she claimed. Maybe she would be strong enough to survive that. But the way that this was solved was so brilliant. The other villain, the dragon, has this like lair that's in like basically another dimension. It's like a pocket dimension. He has this anchor which ties him to that dimension. So Kate's plan is to tie her father to that anchor once the dragon is killed. And this is what happens, so that Roland will be tied to that dimension. So he'll be sucked out of this world and he'll be put into a pocket dimension where he cannot try to overtake the entire world and just turn into a tyrant. In doing so, Kate does die. Curran used his newly found god powers to bring her back to life, does a resurrection with the help of Heir. Heir uses her essence and like puts herself in Kate to try to tether her to life while Curran's doing his little god magic stuff. And what's so phenomenal about this, since Heir's essence was in Kate at the time, Curran ends up by resurrecting Kate and Heir. So now Heir is human again, not human, she has powers, but she is like alive again. She's back from the dead and she's so mad about it. And it's so great. It's so great. I wasn't expecting Heir to like come back to life and I'm so happy about that. I'm so freaking happy about it. Now this is important. Julie was ready to kind of sacrifice herself as well. And since Kate has this specific blood bond with Julie, if Kate gives Julie a direct order, she has no choice but to obey her. And Kate's been very careful to not give Julie, who is like a daughter to her. She adopted Julie. She was an orphan at like age 12 or 13, and she's been living with Kate and she's 17 at the time. So Kate gives her an order during this battle to stop, and Julie is forced. And she told Julie she would never do this, and so she went back on her word. She was trying to save Julie. So at the end of Magic Triumphs, Heir is leaving. She needs some time to process being alive again, and she hears Julie on horseback following her. And Julie's just like, Kate's gonna beat herself up about it, and you know what? I need to strike out on my own. So I'm gonna come with you. And so that's how Magic Triumphs ends. Kate and Curran are finally at peace. Roland is no longer a direct threat. Kate can still visit Roland anytime she wants, and they can have just like a father-daughter relationship without having his like tendency to conquer the world and her needing to stop him from taking away the will of the people. Oh, and Kate, since she technically died, has no claim on the land anymore, which was a burden on her. And I really like that for her now that she doesn't have that responsibility for being basically kind of the queen of Atlanta. Gastek is not happy about it though. He liked having Kate as queen. So I'm so satisfied on where we left off with a lot of our characters. Barabbas and Christopher, my sweet angels. I love that they got together by the end because these two have been circling each other for a ton of books, and I'm just like, I loved Christopher. I loved him so much. So for Blood Heir, this is Julie, and I didn't realize it was happening at the time, but Ilona Andrews was releasing these serial chapters on her website, but it was labeled Writer. And I was like, I don't know what that is, and like, I'll figure it out later. And then someone told me, I think I was talking about how I really want a spinoff for Julie, and someone like hit me up in the DMs and like, she's writing it and she's been writing chapters under Writer. So once I knew that, I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to read them because I want like the full experience of reading everything for the first time. I don't want to wait. I didn't know if she did it like monthly or weekly. I didn't want to just get them in serialized form. I wanted the whole thing. So I avoided all of the talk about Blood Heir. I pretty much just was like, nope, I'm not gonna listen. All I know is that this is about Julie and there is a time jump, and I'm excited to revisit all of my favorite characters. I'm hoping we see a lot of them. And my hope for this is that this will be Julie and Derek's love story. So Derek is a wolf shifter. And reading Magic Stars, which is a little novella, it's a little adventure that Julie and Derek go on together. Derek is like 5 years older than Julie, and Julie has always had a crush on Derek. There's this scene that happens in Magic Stars that pretty much pegs Derek and Julie as fated mates. And so I'm like, yes, this is going to be a fated mates series. So if she doesn't end up with Derek, I'm going to be very disappointed in the series. I don't want her to have another love interest. And yeah, so this is my prediction for Blood Heir. Julie, who's now really a writer, and I think on the back it says like She's not recognizable. It says she, with a new face, new magic, and a new name, Aurelia Ryder. She returns to Atlanta. Ooh, this is an 8-year time jump, by the way. And it says the reason why she's returning to Atlanta is because an ancient power is stalking her adopted mother, Kate Daniels. An enemy unlike any other, and a string of horrifying murders is its opening gambit. If Aurelia's true identity is discovered, those closest to her will die, so her plan is simple: get in, solve the murders, prevent the prophecy from being fulfilled, and get out without being recognized. She expects danger, but she never anticipated that the only man she'd ever loved could threaten everything! Yes! One small misstep could lead to disaster, but for Aurelia, facing disaster is easy. It's relationships that are hard. I'm expecting about the same level of steaminess and relationship progression as the Hidden Legacy series, which they wrote the Hidden Legacy series after they wrote Kate Daniels, and I feel like their relationship was faster paced, so I'm expecting that for this book. So those are my expectations going in. I cannot wait to start this book. I can't wait to start this book. I'm probably gonna binge it, but I'll try to update you guys as much as possible, and yeah, I'll let you guys know. So I've been reading on and off for a couple of hours. Blood Heir. I love this. I love being back in Kate Daniels' world so much. So in the synopsis, like I said, Julie has been gone from Atlanta for about 8 years, and now she's returned to Atlanta, but her face is changed. It's new. And we just start learning what that exactly means. There's this big bad. Sorry, dogs start going crazy because the mail just came. So deliveries, exciting. Okay, but anyway, back to this. So not only does Julie's face not look the same, but her scent has also changed as well. So she is very much unrecognizable, and a lot of her mission revolves around her not being recognized because the big bad is named Moloch. And there's this prophecy that Sienna, one of the witches that we see a lot of in the Kate Daniels world, has seen this vision. And if Kate knows about this prophecy, Kate Daniels, if she knows about this prophecy, oh, and Kate is also the adopted mother. I don't want to miss anything just in case y'all didn't watch the recap that I did of Kate Daniels. But if Kate finds out about it, Kate dies. And so Julie, I can't think of her as anything else besides Julie. I know that she's called Aurelia Ryder in this book, but it's just like, she's Julie. She's Julie. She's always been Julie. She's still Julie, even though she looks different. We find out pretty early on that the reason why her face has changed is because she's battled Moloch before, but he's like unkillable. He regenerated within the next 2 years, but she stole his eye because he gouged out hers and placed his eye in her head, and it melded with her and changed her face and changed her body. Her magic doesn't feel the same. Well, she still has the same magic as she did. It didn't she's still a sensei, which means that she can detect what kind of magical abilities each person has. So each kind of creature in this world gives off this glow, this trace, and Julie can see that. She can tap into her sensate magic whenever magic is up, and she can sense all that. So now she's in Atlanta, and she knows that she has to go investigate this murder that probably has something to do with Moloch. And she has to find a way to prevent this prophecy from coming true. The second she steps in Atlanta, we see some familiar faces. Julie stopped by a group of Baudas, and they're young, they're teenagers, and these Baudas are hyena shifters, and they're known to cause mischief, and they're just kind of crazy, and I love them. So the familiar face is Ascanio, and he has definitely been prominent throughout the Kate Daniels series, and he is now all grown up, and Julie's trying to get a feel for what position Ascanio has now, because Andrea and Raphael, Andrea being one of the best friends of Kate Daniels and also somebody who Julie considers to be an honorary aunt, they're the alphas of Clan Bauda, and so Ascanio answers to them, but she doesn't know what position does he have in the pack. What is he doing with these group of Baudas who are basically claiming that they need to give her she needs to give them a password to be able to pass. And anyway, then we see Conlon, which is Kate and Curran's son. He appears. He's 9 years old. He's a very mature 9. And he is just, I love seeing him. We find out that Julie has kept in touch with Conlon. They see each other, not really in person, because they go visit their grandfather, Roland, in his dimension. And so they haven't seen each other in person, but they've kept up throughout the years. And she considers Conlon to be her brother. I just love that they kept up and they kept in touch. And I can't believe Conlon's 9 years old. But Julie is feeling these like eyes on her. She's like, something's watching me. And I have a theory about who it is, okay? I think it's Derek. I think it's Derek. I know that she says like Ascanio doesn't recognize Julie, doesn't recognize her scent because her scent has changed. And so she pretty much passes through. She goes to the Order, which is the Order of Merciful Aid, and Nick is still the Knight. Is he Knight Protector? I forget what his classification is, but he's pretty much in charge of the Order right now. He doesn't recognize her and reluctantly gives her a badge, which allows her to be able to take over a certain case. So she took over the case of this priest who could perform miracles, because in this world, if people pray to a deity, it gives that deity power, and like faith and prayer affect certain leaders in certain religions. And so this Christian priest was able to perform miracles, and he was regarded within the neighborhood as somebody who is like very like humble, selfless, helped a lot of people. Everyone really liked him, and his murder was super gruesome. So Julie takes over the investigation of this case. She gets to the scene of the murder, and there is one of Moloch's like followers, and she has a battle with them. And so we get to see lots of Julie's badassery, and I really loved it. She also had this place built, and I love it. I love the way that she thinks. I love the way that she was trained. She's been living with Era for the past 8 years. Era's been educating her. We don't really see Era that much. We only get like one conversation with Julie and Era so far. But we do know that Era has set up her own kind of like little queendom, her kingdom of Shinar. They're trying to resurrect the good things about what their family, what Kate's family has represented, and what Roland pretty much ruined. So Era is not crazy anymore, and she and Julie have been working to protect people in their area. But Julie has constructed this house, and outside it looks like a complete and total dump. And she has like this outer layer of rooms that looks so janky, like it's about to crumble around her. But there's a secret door that leads to secret rooms that have all of her treasures, and they're behind a bunch of wards. And I just love all of this. It's just like, I feel like a spy. Like, it's just so much fun. I love being in Kate Daniels' world. By the way, I don't even think I mentioned Ilona Andrews. Oh, and this is the one, I got the book plate, so it's like signed by the authors, by Gordon and Ilona Andrews. And the dedication is to the fans of Kate Daniels' world who refuse to let it go. Yeah, I'm not letting it go. I will live in the Kate Daniels world for the rest of my freaking life. I love it. I never want them to stop writing in the Kate Daniels universe because there's so many different spinoffs that you can do. But anyway, I'm loving it so far. I'm loving Julie's character of Aurelia Ryder. I like that she does long to go home, that she would want nothing more than to talk about all of these people, to talk to all of these people from her past who she has not seen in so many years. You can sense like the loneliness in her. She wants her family back. She wants to be able to be with Kate and Kern again, but she has to make sure that Kate's safe. She cannot let this prophecy come true. She cannot let Kate die. And it's just like so good. So I just can't wait. I'm 106 pages in, like that much. And oh, I forgot to talk about the girl Martin. So there's this little child. Julie was an orphan, and she was kind of like running around. She was called like a street kid, and Kate rescued her and adopted her. And so she meets this little girl named Martin, and she's very like savvy, and you can see that Julie recognizes something of herself in this little girl. And so she is in danger because she witnessed something. She witnessed a person who the murdered priest was last seen with, and these other people who are working for Moloch and have an interest in this and seeing Moloch like rise and take power, they want to silence all the witnesses, and so Martin's in danger. I love it. She goes to the guild, and Barabbas is still there. He's still controlling stuff, and we see him, and he has a kid, and it's just like so cool. I just love all of this. I love seeing all of our characters like grown up, they have kids. I'm really loving it. I'm pretty sure that Martin's gonna be a character that she doesn't die, which I hope that she doesn't. I think that she's gonna be a character that we'll see like throughout the entire series. I'm putting that book down because it's like hurting my hand to like just keep on holding it up. But I will update you guys once I get further into the book, and yeah, I'm just so excited. All right guys, it is time for some Blood Heir updates. I binged the whole thing. I mean, I just couldn't stop. And yeah, I definitely couldn't stop for updates. If you've read the Kate Daniels world before, then you know that it's very action-packed. And as one action scene closes out, something else is brewing in the background. So it's very hard to just put the book down. And I absolutely love this book so much. 5 stars. I love being back in the Kate Daniels world. There's so many characters that are reintroduced and characters that I didn't even know that I wanted to see again. Like I said, we saw Ascanio in the beginning, and we don't really know what his deal is. He's definitely not lost his cockiness from the Kate Daniels world. Kate really tried to make him a little bit more humble, but Baudas by nature are pretty full of themselves, and Ascanio wants to be the best. He and Derek had a bit of a rivalry in the Kate Daniels world, and that has definitely bled through to this book, and I find it very fascinating, very fascinating. The first scene with Derek. When Derek appears, okay, he's leading this band of wolves, and he is much larger. When Julie sees him, he is so much bigger than she remembered. His fur is like pure silver, and there was a magic trace when she was looking at the scene of the crime for the pastor, I forgot what his name is. She saw that there was like a lime green trail of magic, and that's shifter magic, but this one was different from like the dark hunter green trails of the other shifters. And so she knows that a lot of people were at the scene of the crime. And when she sees Derek for the first time, and he's so much changed, his magic, his trace, as a sense that she can sense his magic and see it in color, and he is the lime green. So I'm just like, what has happened to change him that much? We do find out that he is the beta for the ice, oh man, I forget the one in Alaska. Ice Fury? Yeah, I think it's Ice Fury. He's the beta, but he could be the alpha, and I'm confused because it wasn't really touched on. We don't meet a lot of people, a lot of the shifters that he brought with him to Atlanta. They call him alpha. So like, what's going on? Is he really the alpha of Ice Fury and nobody knows that Derek's taken over? And he does go by the name of Darren Argent, and it's just like, it's just so freaking cool. I love seeing Derek again. Again, this is like way deep into spoilers. If you've not read this book, I'm going to be talking about like stuff that happens and relating it to scenes earlier. But I knew when Julie and Derek saw each other for the first time, Julie was pretty confident that you're not going to recognize me. My scent's changed. I don't look the same, and he hasn't seen me since I was 16. But I knew. I'm like, Derek knows who she is. Derek recognizes her. The whole reason why he's in Atlanta is because Julie's there too. And we do find out later that he has a connection with the priest, that he owed him a favor, and the priest had contacted Derek asking for help, but Derek arrived and the priest was already murdered. But also, Julie often senses that she's being watched, and she sees these like glowing eyes, and so we know that Derek's keeping an eye on her. If he didn't know who she was, he wouldn't be keeping an eye on her like he does. And there's this one scene after Julie confronts one of Malek's servants. They're like fire beings, and Julie has to coat herself in her blood armor to be able to protect herself, but still the heat like boils her skin, and she has to use one of like Era's magic concoctions to put in the bath and soak and like basically heal her burned skin. And when she wakes up after like healing, she's still in the bath, and Derek has found her secret lair in her house, because she has these, basically it's like a shell of a house and it looks like it's a dump, and then she has her inner house where it's like nice, and Derek has gotten through these wards and he is just watching her. But still, she's like, he doesn't know who I am. He thinks I'm Aurelia Ryder. And there's this moment where he's like, you know, I'll leave you so that you can get dressed. And she just stands up naked, and Derek is so caught off guard, and I'm just like, yes. Recognize that she is a grown woman now, please, because I would like you to get together sometime soon. Even though there wasn't lots of steam between Derek and Julie, Derek is still at the point where he's really not reconciling that he and Julie could be something more. He's still saying, because Julie's very angry that Derek never tried to come find her. And she wanted that distance, not only from Kate and from Atlanta, but a chance to grow up so that she wasn't stuck in the same cycle of Derek and Julie just being like this team, and like him looking at her like his little sister and as someone that he needed to protect. And she wanted to strike out at her own, build up her own powers and her confidence away from Derek so that he would recognize her as a woman. And I love how she confronts him. She just straight up says it, like, I wanted more. I wanted a relationship. And you weren't going to recognize me as that if I stayed here, and you never came find me. And Derek is saying, like, but I like the way we are. And Julie's like, it's not enough. And I like that she did that, because she's just like, I know myself, I want more with you, and I'm not going to just give you scraps whenever it's going to hurt me, it's going to kill me inside to just be around you and not be with you in the way that I want. And it's just like so perfect. But we know Derek's going to cave, because I had to go back into Magic Stars. Magic Stars is, I'll actually pop it up right here. Magic Stars is a little novella, and it's told through the point of view of Derek and Julie. And it was written, I don't know in what order you should read it in, but definitely towards the end of Kate Daniels, probably around like book 7 or 8. Magic Stars, Julie and Derek go on a mission because Kate and Kern are busy, and they handle this like warlock who's trying to like take power, whatever. And there's this like rock that has like the power of a star, and like there's this projectile of a woman she's supposed to be like super enticing and basically gonna suck the magic out of Derek, and he is like enamored of her, and Julie's fighting the warlock in the background. But anyway, at the last second, the woman, the apparition, touches Derek and then is like, you belong to someone else. And he goes, yes. And he shifts and he breaks out from her spell, and he like destroys the apparition, whatever. And I'm just like, yeah, you belong to Julie. So like some part of him knows that he and Julie are like fated mates. Okay, come on. Some part of him knows, but he's not ready to acknowledge it. So I'm hoping for book 2, since it's out in the open, since Derek is like, hello, Julie, finally you're gonna, recognize that you're you and I'm me. Like, let's stop hiding under these assumed names. Like, yes, I recognize you, I knew all along, and I was just waiting for you to basically like tell me and stop pretending that you didn't know me. I don't know where it goes from here. I don't know. Malik is still the big bad. He wasn't defeated. But the interesting thing is, when Derek showed up on the scene in the final battle, Julie was losing, and Derek shows up and Malik backs down. He recognizes something in Derek, and I'm just like, what is Derek? What is he? So I'm not sure, because Julie was thinking about how Derek's family, he has a tragic backstory. His father turned loop, and loop is whenever you basically go crazy, and he did some horrible things. He killed his family and more that I don't want to talk about because it's just terrible. But the whole point of being a first, which a first is a classification of shifters, they're like more powerful. Kern is one of those, and they're less susceptible to loopism. So the fact that Derek's dad turned loop was kind of an indication that Derek's not a first. So what is he? I have questions. I have so many questions. I have so many observations. So Barabbas and Christopher have a child, but it's like the child is actually Barabbas's biological child. And I think that Julie was observing that Barabbas would have had to done something almost illegal to have a child biologically. I'm not sure how that all works. So very interested. I loved her as a character. I forgot what her name is. There's so many new characters to kind of keep track of. All like the kids. Okay, I can't find her name. I have some more to talk about, so I'm not going to waste time. But I did want to talk about a couple other characters, and one of them is Namtur. I don't know if I'm pronouncing these names. I did not listen to the audio version of this, so I'm just going to say Namtur. And he's basically like an assassin, and Era woke him up. He's an ancient being, and Julie considers him like her great uncle, honorary uncle, and she knows that Namtur has a crush on Era, And I think Era has like another romance with somebody where she's at, where their little kingdom is. And I just find it interesting. I hope that Era appears in future books because I really love her as a character, and she's been acting as Julie's grandmother this whole time. And I just love their dynamic, and I love seeing Era as like a family person. But the only problem is, since Moloch is not defeated, Julie cannot see Curran and Kate. She actually had a near run-in with Curran as she was bringing Martin, the little girl, to the guild, to Barabbas, to get Barabbas to protect her, which ends up by being Barabbas's daughter, to protect Martin while she goes find the guys who are basically mercenary after her to silence her. Curran is there and she has to hide from him, and it's just so heartbreaking because she wants to be with her family, she wants to see them, and she can't see them. And it's just, oh God, it's so freaking good. I love everything about this book. Also, we can't forget, so Nick Feldman, I talked about how he was there and he gave Julie her pass, but he doesn't recognize her. Finally, when he's going psychotic with all of his conspiracy theories, Julie has to come clean and be like, I'm Julie, and he's like, holy shit. And he still doesn't trust Kate, still doesn't trust Kate's type of magic. Roland, he hates him because he went undercover with Roland and he had to do heinous things. But the biggest surprise of this book with Nick Feldman is that he and Dysandra, the mouthy, crass wolf alpha, have a romance. They're in a relationship, and this is so freaking great. And Julie's unaware that one of Dysandra's children is a Lamassu, and as long as that child never eats human flesh, they'll be okay. But if they eat human flesh, then they're gonna like turn crazy. But anyway, I don't know if that's gonna come up because it was kind of mentioned in here, because Ascanio was trying to kind of blame the priest's death on Dysandra's son, because Ascanio has high ambitions. He wants to be the next alpha of the Atlanta pack because Jim wants to retire. Jim has been leading for 8 years and he's missing his children grow up, and so he wants to retire. It's a very draining position. That's why Curran was like happy to retire as well. So Ascanio definitely wants to be the next alpha, but I'm just like, I know that Derek is possibly the alpha of Ice Fury, but would Derek be the alpha of the Atlanta pack? Like, because I love Atlanta. I want my characters to be in Atlanta. Oh, and Kate and Curran don't even live in Atlanta anymore. They just come back for the summers. They live on the coast somewhere. But anyway, I'm just like, is Derek going to be the next alpha of the clan? Because he set Ascanio down. We also saw Thomas, who is one of the alphas of the Rat clan. It was nice seeing them. I loved the book. I can't remember which book it is. It's one of my favorite books in the Kate Daniel series. I get all the titles mixed up though. But the one where they go to Mishmar and Thomas and Robert are there. And oh, that just like broke my heart, and I loved it. It was so good. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm all over the place. And if you can't tell that I'm obsessed with this world, this series, these characters, then you're now aware. I'm trying to think of other things that happen. So Namtur actually does take Martin under his wing. Martin has some sort of magic because she's able to slip through the Watchful. She's able to escape Barabbas's daughter a lot. And it seems she may have like teleport capabilities. I'm not sure, but I hope that we see her again too. I just really love that Julie kind of took this child under her wing just like Kate did, but obviously Julie's not going to be the one raising Martin. Martin's going to go to the New Shinar and be mentored by Namtur, the assassin. It's so great. I loved his character. He was like a welcome surprise. I do want to see, because it was mentioned in previous books in the Kate Daniel series, that Julie's heritage is like the Koorgan or something. That's like Koorghan. That's our like ancestry, and they were like blonde. Era was the one to bring it up. Like, Kate, do you know like who she is, who her people are? Like, she comes from a powerful line, but nothing was ever said about like what their powers are, except that she has an affinity for like horses and wolves. And that came up in this book because Dysandra was sniffing Julie's little like token basically that told Nick that she was allowed to be in Atlanta and basically take over whatever case she wanted. And like Dissandra loved smelling it because wolves like her scent or whatever. But and then she also has this like hawk named like Turgan or something like that. I think she has an affinity for birds as well. But anyway, I want to know more about like what that specifically means for her. Is sensate magic tied to that heritage? Does something in that heritage give her other powers that she hasn't tapped into yet? So she has lots of powers. Oh, that's also what I want to talk about. I want to talk about why Julie's face changed. Not why, because I already talked about that. She took in Malak's eye and it like altered her because she had to absorb its power and stuff. But like the why she looks the way she looks, why she looks so different, I want to talk about that as well. But I'm wondering if we'll see more about like her heritage, what she can do, if there's some more powers that she hasn't discovered, because she has her sensate magic and she has her affinity tied to her heritage, her Korrigan heritage. But she also has Kate's magic because Kate had to cleanse her blood, and so she has the power of the Shannara. She can manipulate blood. Oh, I love that glimpse of Conlan too. His manipulation of blood, and he did his little blood gauntlet, and he just seems so much older and wiser, and I want to see more of Conlan, and I just love them. I love them so much. It kind of like broke my heart, but not broke my heart. It just touched my heart when she was explaining to Nick, because once Nick knew who she was, he recognized why her face looked a little bit familiar. She kind of looks like Kate and Era. So when she was undergoing it, she had to like be put in like suspension, like, or else she would have died. And Era stayed with her for like years while this magic was taking hold of her, while this eye was like transforming her. And when she was under and just like trying to survive this pain, she has this like wish to look like Kate and Era because she wants to be part of their family. She is a part of their family, but she just wants to look like them. And so that's why she's taller to match the height of like Era, and she also has a different face shape that's very similar to Kate and Era now, but it's not too similar that you would like totally be like, oh my god, that's a doppelganger of Kate, but it just looks like their family if you line them up side by side. And I just thought that was so just like, so because I was kind of upset, I'm like, I don't want Julie to lose her face, like that's not fair. She just like had to put an eye in her because she just lost hers, and now she doesn't even look the same. Like, I don't know how I feel about that, but now that the explanation is like, yes, this eye was changing her, but she kind of had a little say-so in how she changed, and she looks like her adoptive mom and her adoptive grandmother and her adoptive grandfather, and I'm just like, okay, I like it, it's fine. Anyway, I love it. I absolutely love it. I'm trying to think of anything else in the end besides Malak backing off. Oh, I also wanted to show you guys, since this was independently published, unlike her Kate Daniels series, and similar to her Innkeeper Chronicles, she has these images drawn. Alona Andrews, the couple, I always just refer to it as her because it's her name, but they have these drawings of characters. And this happens in the Innkeeper Chronicles. There's like a lot more drawings, and there was only one towards the end. And it's so freaking beautiful. I love it. I love it. Oh, so the very end, Sienna. Sienna, the witch oracle, who told Julie about the prophecy, who told Julie about Kate's death that she foresaw, approaches Julie after she and Derek face off with Malak, and he leaves. And Derek kills the Sphinx and stuff, and he eats her heart. So I'm wondering if that has something to do, if he's eating like similar kind of deities, beings, and that's why his magic looks different and he's more powerful. I'm not sure. But anyway, Sienna says the future hasn't changed, like she still dies, but it has been altered. And so she shows Julie a vision of Kate holding a little blonde toddler with brown eyes, and Sienna says, this is your sister, like you brought Malak up short, so you bought them some time. And I love that, because I was kind of a little bit sad that Kate and Curran only had Conlan, because at the end of Magic Triumphs they said like maybe in a couple years I'd like a little girl, so I'm like so happy that they're gonna get a little girl, and like I just want to see Kate and Curran be parents some more because they were the best parents ever. I just love them. But Sienna also tells Julie that she has to stay in Atlanta, which I knew it. Like, everything comes back to Atlanta, and I'm just really excited. I'm really excited. I don't know how many books there's supposed to be in the series. I have been avoiding any blog posts that Ilona Andrews posts about Blood Heir because I wanted to go in just like nothing but the synopsis. That's all I wanted, just the synopsis. And so I'm gonna have to go dig and see if they announced how long this is gonna be, what they foresee for the future. And yeah, I'm just very, very, very interested and in love with this series. I haven't read a series by Ilona Andrews that I don't fall head over heels for. I still need to read their what is it, Bayou Moon and stuff like that. I haven't read their series The Edge, but where's the Bayou ones? Oh no, that is Bayou Moon is The Edge too. Does this happen in Louisiana? I'm always like wary of reading stuff in Louisiana. If you noticed anything, or if there was something that I just forgot to mention, let me know in the comments. Let me know if you know anything about the future of the Aurelia Rider series. It's like labeled Kate Daniels World on Amazon, but Aurelia Rider on Goodreads, so I'm not sure which series title they're going with. If you have any information on like how many books are going to be projected, I want it to be a long-running series. I don't want it to just be like 3 books. I want to stick with Julie. This world is a lot more crazy and complicated, and I kind of want to stick with Julie for a little more than 3 books, Julie and Derek. But I do want them to have like a romance like Kate and Curran did, and then like they're together for like the rest of the books. Like, it takes a couple books for them to get together, but once they're together, they're together. I love spending time with characters when they're like happily together. Like, I love that. I love seeing them together and happy. I hate whenever books end right whenever they get together and then you just don't get to watch them be happy. It's like all the angst and stuff, and I don't even get like a little sunshine and roses. Anyway, alright guys, that concludes today's video. If you like this video, give it a big thumbs up. If you're not already subscribed to my channel, make sure that you subscribe to get notified of any future videos that I do. Thank you so much for watching, and remember, life's better with little HEA. Bye guys.